أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So, inshallah, we are going to continue with our discussion on the miraculousness of Quran. As we are getting to the end of Ramadan, inshallah, this will be our final discussion in this year's Ramadan. May Allah make us reach other Ramazans as well. And Allahumma ja'al laylata qadrna fi hadha Ramadan khayran min alfi shahrin lana. Ameen. May Allah make Laylatul Qadr in this Ramadan for us better than 1,000 months. Inshallah, may Allah make us reach realizations about our purpose in this life. So, inshallah, I will continue reading from the second flash. So, this first flash was talking about the comprehensiveness of the wording of the Quran, how the sentences, fragments, words, letters, even silence in the Quran is used to express comprehensive meanings. And inshallah, we will continue with the second flash. The second flash is going to be too short of a summary, but after I finish, I'll stop and we'll take your opinion about it, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, second flash. This is the extraordinary comprehensiveness in its meaning. Yes, together with bestowing from the treasuries of its meaning, the sources for all the interpreters of the Sharia, the illuminations of all those seeking knowledge of God, the ways of all these seeking union with God, the paths of all the perfected from among mankind, and the schools of all the scholars, the Quran has at all times been the guide of all of them and directed them in their progress. And it is verified unanimously by all of them that it has illuminated their ways from its treasuries. So this is a short paragraph that the author is making a statement about the comprehensiveness of meaning of Quran based on how different people from various backgrounds and actually scholars, all of them are finding their messages, and each one of them builds wide scholarly work on top of what they learned from Quran. So in here, author is making use of that as an evidence for his point. So let me pause and see if you have comments on that matter. Okay. Yes. Okay. So I guess in here we are looking for as if it is like the source of a river. So you see that many deep knowledge is extracted. Yeah, Abdurrahman and Aisha says no examples. So he just says, just look at all the scholarly work across the border. So it is so because let me see, for all the interpreters of Sharia, for example, he says. So, yeah, Brahman, I should raise hand. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Just firstly, let me know if the volume is not high enough. And secondly, I just wanted to give my quick thoughts. I think actually the second flash is kind of the best way that I witness the miraculousness of the Quran, because I am able to see so many people, like so many teachers, let's say students of the Quran who are my teachers, that are able to reflect some of the names of God, that are able to lead me to some of those names of God. And then this is like where I find the miraculousness of the Quran, I would say, the most clearly. It is even those people also that help, like, let's say you have discussions about verses. And again, in those discussions about those verses, these teachers or these students of the Quran are, again, the ones that show me the miraculous or lead me or help guide me to seeing the miraculous of the Quran. So, I mean, it's also, it's very short. I guess he says this is self-explanatory. He doesn't have to write much about it. And I agree with him. This is a very clear miracle of the Quran for me, how so many students of it have such a large impact on my life. And it's not just like it's an impact that I can measure, that I can experience, and that I witness.
And I just wanted to add, like, the fact that it says here, what stood out to me is that this treasury of meaning, this guidance, this illumination, this path of perfection it's offered has been verified unanimously by all of them. Whether I am directly communicating with someone who is taking the Quran as their teacher, or reading the works of people who are declaring the Quran to be their guide, like, all of them verify it. All of them direct me, direct the reader, direct the listener to the Quran as the source of whatever they're offering. And I see that, there is a lot of benefit, knowledge in the things that I may come across. And in each of those works, I'm being directed to the Quran. So just the fact that there is this unanimous verification by all these different secondary sources that I seem to benefit from, which all signpost to the Quran.
Yes, Jazakallah khairan. And I guess since maybe having a limited access to Quran due to my illiteracy in Arabic, if I might be benefiting from those secondary sources more, or getting to know them more. But as they point to their source, saying that this is where we are all benefiting from, and they're coming, and they are different in flavor. Like he said, interpreters of Sharia, and like these are the mujtahideen. So those people are reading Quran and also the life of the messenger and the narrations, and they're trying to extract how does our creator want us to be like. So very practically, how am I supposed to make most out of this life? What is the purpose of my life? How am I supposed to live this life? So those people are all benefiting from Quran. And then the illuminations of all those seeking knowledge of God. These are arif, like they are trying to increase in the knowledge of the Creator, and all different flavors of those people, and all they again benefit from Quran. And then there are the ways of all those seeking union with God. So this is in the original text, he uses wasil. Wasil is the ones that are trying to get close to the Creator, and like all different sorts of people who try to constantly be in the remembrance of the Creator. are again saying that our source is Quran, then Kamilin, paths of all the perfected from among mankind, like who are trying to, in terms of my human qualities, let me try to utilize them as I'm supposed to utilize them so that I get to know my maker better. Like perfect human is what is trying to be achieved in here, but perfection in the sense that not I am trying to, like I will become a Superman, but as a human, how am I supposed to use those tools? How am I supposed to use my tongue, for example? Like in Ramadan, this is what we are expected to remember most, I guess. So tongue, is it something just to taste, or is it as the author puts elsewhere, it's an inspector for the kitchens of divine mercy? So defining it as such takes you walk towards becoming a perfect human, perfect in the sense that using its tools appropriately, the tools that are given to it. So it's not that I own any of those tools, but by acknowledging that they are given to me, I'm trying to understand how can I use them properly so that I get to know my maker and I get to know my purpose in this life. So this is what I understand from path of all the perfected from among mankind. And then the schools of all the scholars. Yeah, muhakkikin. So these are the investigative scholars. So their way of thoughts are again extracted from Quran. And the book that we are now studying, Nursi, he is one of those scholars. And mashallah, we are benefiting from his writings a lot, alhamdulillah. But he also says this is all but some droplets from Quran. So it's also pointing to the comprehensiveness in meanings of the Quran. So the Quran has at all times been the guide of all of them and directed them in their progress, and it is verified unanimously by all of them that it has illuminated their ways from its treasuries. Okay, so is there any other comments? If not, I'll continue with the third flash. Good. Third flash. This is the extraordinary comprehensiveness in its knowledge. The Quran has caused to flow forth from the oceans of its own knowledge the numerous and various sciences of the Sharia, the multifarious sciences of reality, haqiqah, and the innumerable different sciences of Sufism, tariqah. Similarly, it has caused to flow forth in abundance and good order the true wisdom of the sphere of contingency, the true sciences of the sphere of necessity, and the enigmatic knowledge of the sphere of the hereafter. One would have to write a whole volume to provide examples of this flash. And so as mere samples, we point to the 25 words so far written. Yes, the veracious truths of all 25 words are only 25 droplets from the ocean of the Quran's knowledge. If there are errors in those words, they spring from my defective understanding. Okay. This is again another short flash. Comprehensiveness of its knowledge. The previous one was comprehensiveness in its meaning, and this one is in its knowledge. He talked about Sharia, Haqiqah, and Tariqah as three categories initially. If anybody knows and wants to make any comment about that. And then he moved on to knowledge of the sphere of contingency, mumkinat, then sphere of necessity, wujub, and then the sphere of afterlife or hereafter. Again, he talks about three aspects. One is the sphere of contingency, a bit of a heavy word. The contingency, what I understand from that is the things that I observed that could have been and could not have been. It's not like it does not have to be as it is, or like even when I drop the things that's at my hand right now, I say that, well, it could very well go up rather than going down. So definitely a choice is being made to be pulled down, not going up. So it could have happened this way or another way. So this sphere of contingency is the world that I live in with all its material, immaterial realities. But this world of contingency points to the sphere of necessity. So as I observe this, the things that could have been this way or that way, I say that, but there must exist someone who is choosing them to be as they are, or who is giving them existence as they are. So such a being must exist, a necessarily existent one. This is another thing that I conclude by observing the things around me. And then there's this third sphere that the author mentions. It is the sphere of hereafter. So the things that I observe in here, are they only for this temporary world? I mean, they are decaying, everything is decaying. But what isn't there anything beyond that? Is that all? Like the in a sense, I like that thinking with that metaphor. So you see a man and you consider that person as just flesh and bones. So it's such a reduction for sure. The flesh and bones are decaying day by day, it's changing. But then you realize, is that all? Like, is that the human is only consisting of that? And actually, like modern day, this is how humans are being treated. Unfortunately, especially females are being treated as such. Like, look at all the industry that's turning around female beauty. So how about the purpose of that human? What is the soul of that human? Is it simply for the entertainment of my eyes or anything of that sort? Or is it for the human is meant to learn the truths behind this sphere of contingency, the sphere of necessity? There must exist a necessarily existent one. And also, there is a meaning behind all these spheres, all these existence around me. And there is and must be an eternal life after that. So what I am doing in here, or say any food that I taste, it's not gone for good. It is going to the meanings that I reap from that is being sent to an eternal realm, or it's building up an eternal realm for me. I'm realizing that as I increase in my gratitude, for example. So if I take this world as a book that is being spoken to me, then I will become grateful for all the bounties that I see. So my gratefulness is increasing. So it stays with me, it doesn't go away. The taste itself goes away, like the taste of the best food that I eat. It doesn't stay in my tongue, but the gratitude that I experience after this stays with me. So this is hereafter. It stays, it's not temporary. It can become eternal. And ultimately, my life, I don't want to die. I don't want this experiencing existence to go away. So then there's this sphere of hereafter. Quran is talking about all these and within perfect balance, and explaining all these that I am interested in learning, and not only interested in learning in the sense that, yeah, it's going to be cool to learn about it, but these are the things that I am truly in need of, because otherwise I'm not able to figure out my why am I here. It's going to become pointless. So Quran is these three spheres are among its comprehensive knowledge. And he says one would have to write a whole volume to provide examples of this flesh. So he referred to previous words as a reference for the examples of these. And maybe we can quickly remember what we have discussed about these, at least for these 3 points, for instance, in the words that he have written. For example, there is this huge 10th word in which he talks about resurrection and afterlife. Then all over the place, he talks about the spheres of contingency and the spheres of necessity and how one points to the other. So he talks about the order within the sphere of contingency and says that this cannot happen by itself, because everything seems to be happening within a causal chain. But then he says sphere, like causes have no effect. So sphere of contingency, as the author learns from Quran, he tells us about how Quran is making us go through this sphere of contingency, and then how Quran is deriving conclusions about the sphere of necessity based on what it observes in the sphere of contingency. And it's pretty much all Nursi's writings are pointing to that. Okay. Any comments from you? If not, I'm moving forward with the fourth flesh. Fourth flesh is a little bit long, so let's keep reading this one. Fourth flesh. This is the extraordinary comprehensiveness of the subjects it puts forward. So Quran talks about various subjects, but the subjects that it puts forward is comprehensive. What does he mean by that? Together with bringing together the extensive subjects of man and his duties, the universe and the creator of the universe, the heavens and the earth, this world and the hereafter, the past and the future, and pre-eternity and post-eternity. The Quran explains all the essential and important topics from man's creation from seminal fluid till when he enters the grave, from the correct conduct of eating and sleeping to the matters of divine decree and determining, from the creation of the world in 6 days to the duties of the wind blowing, indicated by the oath of والزاريات والمرسلات, the winds that scatter, and by the winds sent forth. From his intervention in man's heart and will, indicated by وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ, comes between a man and his heart, and the verses are flipped. Comes between a man and his heart is يَحُولُ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَقَلْبِهِ, and then but you will not accept as God wills. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. From these two, and the heavens rolled up in his right hand. وَالسَّمَاءُ مَطْوِيَّاتٌ بِيَمِينِهِ. We'll go through these verses, inshallah. That is, to his holding all the heavens within his grip From the flower, from that goes to another couple of verses again, author picking up from here. From the flowers and grapes and dates of the earth described in وَجَعَلْنَا فِيهَا جَنَّاتٍ مِّن نَخِيلٍ وَأَعْنَابٍ, and we produce therein gardens of date palms and wines. From that verse to the strange truth expressed by إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا, when the earth is shaken to its utmost convulsion. From the state of the skies in ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى إِلَى السَّمَاءِ وَهِيَ دُخَانٌ, then he directed his will towards the skies, and they were smoke. To their being rent with smoke, and the stars falling and being scattered in infinite space. From the worlds, again starting another tuple, from the worlds being opened for test and examination to its closing. From the grave, the first dwelling of the hereafter, and then from the intermediate realm, the resurrection and the bridge to the Sirat, to eternal happiness, from the events of the past and the creation of the body of Adam and the dispute of his two sons, to the flood and the drowning of the people of Pharaoh and the major events of most of the prophets, and from the pre-eternal circumstance alluded to by Lastu bi Rabbikum, am I not your sustainer, to the post-eternal occurrence expressed by وجوه يومئذ ناظرة إلى ربها ناظرة, some faces that day will beam in brightness, looking towards their sustainer. All these fundamental, important subjects are explained in a way befitting the all-glorious one who administers the whole universe as though it was a palace, and opens and closes this world and the hereafter like two rooms, and regulates the earth as if it was a garden, and the heavens as though they were a roof adorned with lamps, and beholds the past and the future as though they were two pages present in his sight, like a single night and day, and looks on pre-eternity and post-eternity as though they were yesterday and tomorrow, in a form in which the two sides of a chain of events are joined together and touching in present time. Just as a master builder speaks of two houses he has constructed and arranged, and makes out the program and list an index of the matters involved, so the Quran is fitting for the one, Quran is appropriate speech of the one who makes the universe and arranges it, and writes out and displays the list and index, and if one may say so, the program of the matters concerned with it. Yeah, so if like overall he drove a very large picture, so I'm briefly pausing in here. So Quran with its comprehensive topics is painting a picture of the existence so well. So it talks about the beginnings and ends in all aspects. The author says this only fits to the one who had truly created that existence. And he gives the example of a master builder. So that man builded two palaces, and only he can give a perfect depiction and explanation of the plan and the stages of the making of every part of that two palaces, which material is used, why it was used, what does it point to, why the radius of this dome is that much, what does it signify. So every tiny detail, the master builder only he can give you the full answer of that within the measures and within the balance. So he would give enough emphasis on everything, neither more nor less, but it's only he can give that comprehensive picture, draw that comprehensive picture. So as Quran is doing that, like talking about all aspects of this creation, the topics of Quran is painting a comprehensive picture of this existence and its purpose. So again, picking it up from here, just as a master builder speaks of two houses he has constructed and arranged, and makes out the program and list and index of the matters involved, so the Quran is fitting for the one who makes the universe and arranges it, and writes out and displays the list and index, and if one may say so, the program of the matters concerned with it. There is no sign of any artificiality or false display. And just as there is no trace of imitation or hint of any fraud, like speaking on behalf of someone else, or supposing itself to be in someone else's place and speaking, so too with all its seriousness, all its purity, with all its sincerity, the Quran's pure, shining, brilliant exposition declares, I am the word and exposition of the creator of the world, just as the light of the day declares, I came from the sun. Indeed, apart from the maker who adorns this world with antique arts and fills it with delicious bounties and scatters bountifully over the face of the world, together with these wonders of his arts, so many valuable gifts, and setting them in orderly lines, spreads them out over the face of the earth. Apart from this bestower of bounties, who else could the Quran of miraculous exposition be fitting for? Whose else speech can it be? For the Quran, which fills the world with this clamor of salutation and acclaim, this resounding praise and thanks, and transforms the earth into a place for the recitation of God's names, a mosque, and place for gazing on the divine works of art. Whose speech could it be apart from his? Who can claim ownership of it apart from him? Whose word could it be other than his? Whose light could be the exposition of the Quran be, which solves the talisman of creation and illuminates the world, other than the pre-eternal suns? Who has the ability to produce the like of it and imitate it? In truth, it is impossible for the artist who adorns this world with his art not to speak with man. This is like so far he was saying that it's not possible, it cannot be anybody else's speech. But then he's now taking a turn in here. He says, in truth, it's impossible for the artist who adorns this world with his arts not to speak with men who appreciates his art. It's a very interesting turn he took here. So far he was saying that because the speech is out there, we are talking about Quran, it's already out there. So, and we are trying to find out, or exploring this speech and saying that whose speech is that, and what, how it fits perfectly with the creation in explaining the existence to me, the purpose of my existence. Here, he says, who else's speech could it be? Then he says, in truth, it's impossible for the artist who adorns this world with his arts not to speak with men who appreciates his art. Like, looking at it, yeah, definitely the maker of this existence must talk to human, because human can appreciate the art. So then definitely the artist who is visibly, we observe that he is creating the creation in an artful way, would talk to the ones who appreciate his artwork, which is men. Since he makes and knows, since the creator is acting and knowingly acting, it's not like creation is not random. So I do observe that he is in action. He is constantly acting, making things, and doing it knowingly. I observe knowledge as being involved. He surely speaks. So it's a very interesting statement. Since he makes and knows, he surely speaks, he must talk. And since he speaks, it is surely the Quran which is appropriate to his speech. So by looking at the universe, the author says he definitely talks. And his creation is a talking anyways in the first place. It's a different speech. But he should talk to men also in the way that men would understand. And such a speech must exist. And then author says, what speech among men really fits to be speech of God? And since he speaks, it is surely the Quran which is appropriate to his speech. How should a lord of all dominion, who is not indifferent to the way a flower is ordered, remain indifferent to a discourse which brings all his dominion to a clamor of salutation and praise? How could he become indifferent, stay indifferent to such a speech? Like, Quran is in there. Now let's assume we observe that there is such a speech in existence. Now the author says, how come that, although it is befitting to the creator himself, do you really think that he is going to be indifferent to such a thing? Do you really think that this would be like, even the creation of a flower is his speech and he's taking care of it, and you observe that it is his, if you like, fine crafting, handcrafting, every single flower is such a creation, and you think that the Quran, that speech, is not going to be of creators? Do you think that it's going to be a speech of men? Although it is, so far we have been talking about how central Quran is, how important Quran is, as it depicts a fitting picture of this existence. Would he permit it to be attributed to others and be made as nothing? Would such a thing be possible? Okay, so I talked a lot, and it was a long read, fourth flash, and there were verses. So I would be happy to listen to your take from this text. And while waiting for you to raise your hands, I will very quickly summarize. So the first part of this fourth flash talked about how Quran is depicting, or the topics of Quran, or the subjects of Quran, is depicting a perfect picture, a complete picture of the existence. Existence in the sense of anything that I can even think of, like pre-eternity to post-eternity, to life and death, to beginnings and ends, or things as simple as what I eat, what I drink, to my day-to-day life, but also what am I going to happen after I die. Every such topic is being mentioned and highlighted in the Quran to answer any possible question that I might have that is worthy to be asked. And then he brings the topic to such a comprehensive message is fitting to the creator of the heavens and the earth. So the one who creates can talk about his creation that well. Yes, Abraham and Aisha, please go ahead.
I just had a brief comment about what this fourth flash made me think about. I guess where it said, especially the sentence of, the Quran's comprehensiveness and ranging from the correct conduct of eating and sleeping to the matters of divine decree and determining. And it made me think, so it's saying that the Quran offers this sort of guidance from minute aspects, perhaps, of my life to these larger questions. And it made me think, well, yeah, I do feel that I need guidance in almost, not almost, all facets of my life. You know, from the very mundane to Googling what is the best toothbrush out there to, you know, questions about perhaps space or how something functions. I need guidance in all facets of my existence. Um, I seek for guidance in the fundamental questions that look to my human reality, but then I also seek to guide. I also seek guidance as to how to be. You know, I've been given this ability of behavior, if you will, or this body that requires taking physical actions, and even in that respect, I want to know what is the best way to live my life. What is the best um, set of actions I can take? And so you know, whether the Quran gave it or not, I think as a human being, I would be able to say, yes, I do need guidance in all the ways in which I experience my life. And especially in terms of uh, the ones that inform my existence. You know, they're the fundamental needs, and they look to how I'm to orient all other actions, all other ways of thinking. You know, um, my questions about divine decree and determining look to my need for guidance on how to eat and how to sleep. You know, these are all interrelated categories, and I can't isolate one category of my life from brushing my teeth to thinking about, you know, the existence and whatnot. They're all interrelated, and I seek guidance in that. So I guess if I've been given such needs, it only makes sense that I am given speech that is also comprehensively treating the comprehensive questions and needs that I have as a human being.
Yes, yes, exactly. And so this reminds me of, am I in the search of guidance for that? Because if I am, then yes, definitely this fourth flesh makes perfect sense. And this being said, might be a little bit of tangential, but since we are coming to the end of Ramadan, I think it's relevant. So Laylatul Qadr is such a highlighting such a attitude also. If I am searching for something, if I feel the darkness, if I'm troubled, it might be being troubled with why the things happening are happening as they are. It might be that uh, I don't know, you are having issues with a friend, with family, or you are in like having trouble at work, or you are in grad school and you question, why did I start this? Where is this going to? Let's say I finish this, and then there's going to be finding a job. Then if I do this, then there's this tenure track and whatnot. So it's just an infinite loop. So these are the things that keeps growing on you, and you're trying to like find answers. To the extent that I take these serious, and even if I ask those questions to others, like other friends, more experienced people in life than myself, uh, still they're as miserable as I am, in if not in one sense, in another sense. So, my maker, you tell me, why are you putting me into that condition? Definitely, you must have a message to me in here. What do you mean? So I cannot figure it out by myself, neither other people helping me to figure it out. So what do you mean by that? So you must provide me that knowledge, because it looks like you want me to get to learn something, and it doesn't feel like you want to torture me. But how? So I think understanding this need to the utmost level, so much so that when the guidance comes, especially in Surah Al-Qadr, it's not being mentioned with the name. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. We revealed it in the night of Qadr, it says. It doesn't say we revealed Quran in the night of Qadr. Because if I am in such a position, I would know what is revealed. Like it is like if I am thirsty, if there's drought, and somebody shouts from outside, it is coming. So would you go and ask who is coming? Everybody is waiting for rain. So such a good glad tidings, everybody knows what it really means, to the extent that they are aware of their need for water. So this is what Laylatul Qadr or the chapter of Qadr reminds me of as it starts. If you are aware of your darkness so much, then you are already in expectation of revelation, guidance. And then the chapter starts saying, yeah, indeed, we revealed it in that dark night of yours. Yeah, not to go too deep into there, but while Aishanur was talking, and also this text is talking about my needs spanning the whole universe. If I am cognizant that I am in need of guidance, light, I'm not able to figure it out by myself, and nobody else can help me in that either. The one who is making all these existence can be my only source of guidance, my light. Then it will start speaking to me. Well, may Allah make us benefit from Laylatul Qadr. Yes, Farah, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for both of those comments. Very enlightening. I was also like reflecting on the same comments and just adding things that came to my mind as I heard the thoughts so far. Is this thing that I've encountered in when people, I guess, are trying to study the Quran, not from sort of, their faith perspective, but for other reasons, they tend to really involve themselves or go deep in these debates about what is sort of the genre of the Quran. Is it a historical book? Is it political? Is it social? Is it literature? Is it this? Is it this? Is that? And I find that in the context of what we were talking about, so futile that one would try to define, or categorize or make these sort of like different categories of defining the Quran, when referring back to this idea that one, its comprehensive nature is speaking to, as Aishanur was saying, like the same consciousness with which I choose a toothbrush is the same consciousness with which I reflect on, let's say, beauty or death or any other abstract notion. So it's not bifurcating our experience, but it is uniting it, and the idea that if we are looking at the Quran and our lives from this lens of Tawheed, then everything is united or in expressing the quality of divine unity. So there is just one experience and one question, really, essentially, and one answer. And it is a very peaceful and a very calming idea that no matter what your needs, no matter how big or small your needs, the answer is always going to be from that single source. So you don't, feel anxious about going into different directions, answering for different elements of your life, from the mundane to the abstract. And so this idea that, and as you were pointing out, this very helpful pointer about, the anzalnahu, this undefined huwa, that it, you can't define it. It can't be broken down into different sort of categories, and this just sort of reference to it, to the people looking for it is intuitive, it's there, but people who are not looking for it no matter however you define it, how many categories you make of it, and ways you dissect it, you cannot explain it. So getting deep within one's needs is pointing to that is not defined by our descriptions, but just knowing almost intuitively or on a conscious level. So thank you for those very, very nice thoughts.
Very beautiful point. Very beautiful points, yes. Yeah, so just referring to it as it means that you get to know it, you will appreciate it, but you cannot really describe it, define it, unless you feel the need for it. Alhamdulillah. Good. I'm looking if anybody wants to make a comment. If not, we can slowly go over it once again. Okay. So the author is giving examples of how Quran's topics, subjects are comprehensive. So bringing together the extensive subjects of man and his duties, universe and the creator of the universe, heavens and the earth, this world and the hereafter, past and the future, pre-eternity and post-eternity. By all these, Quran explains all the essential and important topics from man's creation from seminal fluid till when he enters the grave, from the correct conduct of eating and sleeping to the matters of divine decree and determining. It's interesting, right? So it's very mundane, like eating and sleeping. So, but when Quran talks about such a thing, since Quran is talking about that, I'm also becoming more interested in that mundane thing. And I say, well, maybe it's not that much of a mundane or unimportant or lowly of a thing. Because as I was saying at the beginning, so eating or the tongue itself, like generally this is how it happens, right? You see that there are some smart people, but they become like criminals, and you say that, oh, if only this guy used his brain to its proper place, like use its brain to its proper use. And in this case, we think that we have a proper definition of how the brain should be used, right? And generally it is for the good of mankind or for like starting a good business and whatnot, but not criminal acts. How about the tongue? What is the purpose of tongue? Like eating is this regular act that we do possibly multiple times a day, but what is the purpose of it from the point of view of purpose of my existence? So it definitely plays a huge role. It must, so much so that we are being commanded not to eat for a month. As if the Creator says, I feel like you're forgetting the purpose of your tongue and you start abusing it and being wasteful. So let me format your factory defaults so that you can appreciate the point of having a tongue. It's not just to enjoy the moment, because the tool itself is for just enjoying the moment. The tongue is only good for however many seconds a taste stands on it, but it just goes down. Like it's like a shovel, it throws everything inside, right? So it doesn't stand still. The taste doesn't stand still. So there must be a proper use of it. So Quran, I do expect that Quran would teach me how to utilize this tongue, or what is sleeping for. Like 1/3 of my life goes to sleeping. But what is it good for? How does it fit into the purpose of my existence? So I should ask those questions, and definitely my Creator should highlight these in his speech. And when I hear it from my Creator speaking, I would say, oh yeah, then it's not some unimportant detail in my life. It is so central that my Creator is rightfully talking about it. to the matters of divine decree and determining. And I like the way he puts it, because in our discussions, especially, we love talking about some deeper topics like divine decree and determining. But how about eating and sleeping, right? So Quran is not really making injustice. So he talks about these two because they are also central to human experience, human purpose. Then he says, from the creation of the world in 6 days to the duties of the wind blowing, indicated by the oaths of وَالذَّارِيَاتِ وَالْمُرْسَلَاتِ, by the winds that scatter, by the winds sent forth. Yes, any comments up to here? If not, I'll move on. Okay, Farah, please go ahead.
I apologize if this would be any distraction, but I'll just take the opportunity to clarify it for myself to how people understand, one, why the author wants to mention the topic of creation of the world in 6 days in this context of comprehensiveness, and also just to understand the concept further for myself.
Yeah, please go ahead. I mean, if you would like to share anything about that, it would be nice.
I don't have anything that is not sort of something that is representative of anything I've reflected on, but and it's, it doesn't really convince me yet. So I just it's just more so of a question, and perhaps if I hear anything from others, it might spark something else.
Yeah. While waiting for others to chime in, so creation of heavens and the earth in 6 days. What I think about it is this creation of heavens and earth in 6 days is something that's happening right in front of my eyes. And there are multiple levels of 6 days within each other. What do I mean by that? Pretty much like the second, millisecond, like millisecond, second, minute, hour, like within this old analog clocks. Like there are circles within each other, right? And the one is turning 60 times more than the other, but it is apparently still the same circle. Likewise, this 6 days of creation is within every single day. There are there's this, we have 5 daily prayers as if they are marking like the turning points of stages of the day, like sunrise, then there's like daybreak, sunrise, like Dhuhr time, the sun is at the top, then there's this Asr time, then the things are starting to decay, then there's sunset, and then there's Isha time, it's total darkness, and then there's this as if Tahajjud time, midnight. So these are all marking various different types of creation in a single day, like different stages. And also then there's those stages of life, human life. You are like pre-born, then you're born, like in your mother's womb, you are a being, then you are born, and as a baby, then you become an adolescent, then you become an adult, then you start getting old after maybe 40. I'm saying 40 because I'm younger than 40. Then old age comes, I don't know, now I call it 65, but I guess as I get close to that, it would become 70, 75. But anyways, we do observe that there are different stages of creation that's happening right in front of my eyes, and I'm going through that. And these are all being created within an order, one after the other. So now go to an upper scale, like we started from milliseconds to seconds, and we are going, right? So then mankind is being created in stages. We observe that men were initially more primitive in terms of their thought or the tools that they use and whatnot. And now we are seeing that eventually they improved in their way of thinking, their way of living, and then how they are communicating has changed so much. So it's also happening within an order, stage by stage. And in the upper scale, let's think about the whole universe. At a universal scale, we see that the creation has been taking stages, like in terms of how the galaxies are being born and die, and how our like solar system is born and whatnot. So this is all showing that the creation is happening within stages and within an order, and one after the other, one is pointing to the other. Like, how would you know whether a clock is working? I'm talking about, again, the analog clocks. You will look at the second hand, right? Because if you look at the hour hand, it's moving so slow that you wouldn't notice that if it's working or not. But if you look at the second hand, as it turns, you know that the hour hand is also moving, or the day hand is also moving. Likewise, in this existence, things are being created within each other, telling me that the creation is taking place. So this 6 days is not something that has finished. The creation is going on. There is a long comment from Abdurrahman and Aishanur. Would you guys like to read it yourselves? Let me see.
I mean, your comment has kind of touched upon what I was thinking. I think there may be further reasons as to why the 6 days is mentioned, and maybe explanations like the one that you gave. But I took that phrase to mean like why he mentions, and I'll read my comment here, why he mentions the creation of the world in 6 days to mean to represent how the world comes to be. I have questions about how existence is given, how creation comes to be, from my existence to the existence of new leaves coming in the plant across from me, to spring, to other things, to and so on. At various moments, at various levels, rather, from the moment to the day to the year, etc. And the Quran offers me a framework to understand how things are created and given existence, and by whom as well. So I was just, within the context of this paragraph, emphasizing the comprehensiveness of the Quran's guidance and what it offers. I took that phrase to mean just simply including how things around me are coming into existence.
And in here, since the author is talking with two poles, as if showing two ends of the same thing, in one end he put the creation of the world in 6 days. To the other end, to the other extreme of this, he puts the duties of the wind blowing. So as if he is saying that there's this flow of winds, flow of creation. One is such a huge flow that's happening, the creation that's taking place in various levels and layers. And Quran alludes to this by saying the creation happens in 6 days. And on the other end, Quran points me to the winds, because it's still the same thing. Wind is a very beautiful way to demonstrate change and flow, and it's flowing in front of your eyes. Think that, may Allah protect, but if you were put into like a prison cell, there is no clock, no sunlight, no nothing. Time is not passing. There's no reference point for you of change, because change is our reference point for getting to know that we exist and things are being made, things are being created. So wind is such a simple but beautiful way of observing change. Things are changing, things are moving. And this is one end. This is a very simple way to observe this flow and change, or creation, like change equals creation in this sense. And the other end of that spectrum is Quran talks to from a much larger and more comprehensive way, also saying that the creation takes place in 6 days. Good. Okay, let's move a little bit forward too. We started 6 minutes late, and I promised to finish by 7:15, but if you don't mind, I'll extend it by 6 minutes if you are okay. Okay. From his intervention in man's heart and will, indicated by, comes between a man and his heart. يحول بين المرء وقلبه, and وما تشاءون إلا أن يشاء الله, but you will not except as God wills. I'm not sure how good of a translation that is. وما تشاءون إلا أن يشاء الله. You would not will except God has willed. Might be another thing. This might also be alluding to the fact that my free will is by will of the Creator. He willed me to will. This is how I understand from that verse. So from this, like his intervention in man's heart and will, to وَالسَّمَاءُ مَطْوِيَّاتٌ بِيَمِينِهِ, and the heavens rolled up in his right hand. That is, to his holding all the heavens within his grip. Again, showing two huge endpoints. As if he is saying, the reins of everything is in my hands, to the heavens. They are rolled up in my hand. And on the other hand, your will. Because human will seems to be the end of the spectrum, or the last thing that I would attribute to the Creator. This is the very thing that I would call mine. I feel like it is really the core, the dot, like dimensionless point in humans' existence. What I mean by that is, line has a dimension, right? Line is a one-dimensional thing. A point is dimensionless. So think that you're living in a 3D world. This is how I start my experience. There are trees, there is sun, there are clouds. Then I start saying that, oh, this cloud cannot be by chance, by nature, or anything of this. Then I say there must exist an absolute owner of this cloud, of this sun, of this tree, of this, my mom, or the milk that I drink. So as if this three-dimensional world, as I give it up, I give it away, I attribute it to its true source. But as I keep pruning such ownerships, I start shrinking inside. And at the very core stands this free will. And the Creator says, I gave it to you. I know what you're feeling, what is happening in there. I am aware of that. It's also within my reach. It is also within my control. It's also with my creation. It's not your creation. It does not belong to you either. So it builds such a beautiful spectrum. The Creator says, from beginning to end, in that respect also, it's all mine. Okay. And then there's this, from the flowers and grapes and dates of the earth as described in وَجَعَلْنَا فِيهَا جَنَّاتٍ مِّن نَخِيلٍ وَأَعْنَابٍ. It's from Surah Yasin, and we produce therein gardens of date palms and wines. Yeah, from flowers and grapes and dates. This is one end of the spectrum again, to the strange truth expressed by إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا, when the earth is shaken to its utmost convulsion. Interesting. Why do you have any insights about why the author is coupling these two verses? There's a lot to talk here. We are, of course, going through very quickly over them, but if you would like to share anything. So this reminds me of like by the first one, we produce there in gardens of date palms and wines. So this is Surah Yasin showing this creation of like orderly date gardens and like grape wines. As this is all coming up, yeah, Nazmul says like creator can produce gardens, here he can destroy as well. Yes, exactly, very beautiful. So within that order, because within the context of Surah Yasin, the theme was resurrection. And the creator says, I am the one who, pierces the earth over seeds. So you bury the seed, right? And then the plants come out of it, the gardens come out of it. And the other end of it is, in a similar way, the earth is being shaken. إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. So one way you can think of it like the earth is being, what was the word? Cleft asunder. I guess this was the word we have been using in previous weeks. But it's cracked, and the seed is cracked, and the new plant is coming out, pretty much like resurrection. But also, as Nazmul says, he is the one that resurrects the life and gives life, as in gardens, and he is the one that shakes it to the death. Yeah, Farah, please go ahead.
I was just reflecting on this. I mean, these are granted English translations, so I hope there is not much of an error in understanding, in the sense that the verse where it says to produce therein gardens, so something that is produced or planted in you, and then the other one being that it is to its utmost convulsion, like, coming out of you. So this idea to me is reminding me of just the discussion we were having before, of like this idea that we are given the will, but we are also in need of using that will to reach out back to him. So this sort of very, conversational relationship that God, or our source of being, invites us, but we also invite him, or like he plants in us the need to reach out back. So some sort of conversational or back and forth imagery that I can I experience reading these two verses together.
And as you were talking, I remembered the previous verse in Surah Yasin. So for you is a sign, is the dead earth. From there, then comes, like after a few sentences comes this verse, we produce there in gardens of date palms and wines. It's life is coming out of death. And then in إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا is depicting man's resurrection, as if the earth is now being shaken. فَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا وَقَالَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا لَهَا. So then the earth is as if spitting out its burdens. And then the man says, what's happening? What's going on in here? So it depicts a very scary scene of resurrection. But the two are very much like depicting the same thing, because in one end it is the seed, the earth over the seeds are being shaken, and life is being put forward from there, and it happens in every spring. And then how does this happen in my personal life? Also, it happens in my day-to-day life, right? My hopes are being shattered sometimes, or some of the things that I am not really having any hope anymore, buried under the earth, is being shaken, and a new life is being just gushed forth out of it. So these are all the things that Quran is reminding me of, because this is my day-to-day life, and this is my reality, and I'm concerned about them. So again, very beautifully putting the death and resurrection And this is within, again, the scope of Quran's explanations. Okay, so let us stop here because it's we are time. Inshallah, let me stop here and then I'll talk to you for a few minutes. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.